Haba Leinu L'Toiva falls out on a Friday. Something that's unique, does not happen often at all. Though in Yerushalayim, Purim to be on a Friday is pretty often. But for us, out of Yerushalayim, Yud Dalet to be on a Friday is not often. It did happen 4 years ago. The time before was, I think, 13 years ago. Before that, the next time Purim is going to fall on a Friday is going to be in 20 years, 2045. We should be zoicha for the binyan Bais Hamikdash. Shall be makadosh al pi ariyah. I spoke earlier this morning. What's the most lechatchila time to make a Suda Purim when it's Friday? On a regular year, the Ramah says the normal is you make it in the afternoon, and he says don't start right before the night and the Ikar Sudas after Purim. That's a regular year. A year that it's Friday, Alts Kovet Shabbos, we spoke about it. These are the lechatchila that the Ramah says to really start before Chatzos. The Maril says to start before Shah Asiris is before 4:04. That's a separate discussion. It's available on the shul's website on Torah Anytime. That's not what we're talking about today. What we're going to speak about, B'siyata D'Shmaya, is the din that's brought in the Gemara and the Paskin La Halacha, Poiris Mapu Makadish. What are we talking about? Before we're going to Be'ez Hashem go through the steps of Poiris Mapu Makadish, where does Poiris Mapu Makadish come in? It's Negeya anytime, you're middle of a Suda Friday afternoon and Shabbos comes, but it's yet relevant, Lamaisa now, Purim. Purim is Friday, you're mechuyev to make a Suda Friday, and if you didn't get a chance to make the Suda in the morning, you make it in the afternoon, and if you didn't get a chance to start your Suda at 4 o'clock, you eat it at 5 o'clock, and if you didn't start your Suda at 5 o'clock, or at 6 o'clock, at 6:30, you have to have the Suda. However, it's important to know like this. The halacha is that when you have a Suda Friday, comes Shabbos, you can no longer eat. It's not like Shalosh Seudas, that when you start Shalosh Seudas before the Zman, you can eat Shalosh Seudas way into Matzah Shabbos. If you didn't wash yet Shalosh Seudas, Matzah Shabbos, you have a Chiyuv Avdallah. But for Kiddush, it's not like that. Comes the Zman, you're not allowed to eat anymore. And that's the same thing Purim also. Regardless of when you started the Suda, when the L'tchatchila is to eat the Suda, the fact is, you started eating your Suda and you're holding now by the Zman of Shabbos, you are no longer allowed to eat. You're no longer allowed to eat. So what do? One option would be is, you bench. You finish the Suda, you go to shul, Kabbalah Shabbos, if you daven mincha earlier, Ma'ariv, that's one option. But then there's another option that the Gemara says, Poiris Mapu Makadish. Agav, the Gemara in Psachim Daf Kuf that brings Poiris Mapa, it's a short share. I don't want to go through the whole Gemara, but when the Gemara speaks about it, before the halacha ela poiris mapa, but before, when the Gemara, the back and forth, the Gemara says, Hagam lichbash as amalki imi baboyis. So even though the poiris mapa makadish has nothing to do with Purim, has nothing to do, it's any Friday afternoon, comes the Seudas, comes Shabbos, you're not allowed to eat anymore. Either you can bench, or the Gemara says poiris mapa. However, interesting, the Gemara does bring before the pasuk. Fine. When do you have to stop eating? The pashtus is in Siman Reish Ayin Alf and Hilchas in Shabbos, you have to stop eating by the Shkia, or if you makabel Shabbos, which means Lich mentioned in 6:44, Shkia is a few minutes after 7. By around 7ish, you have to stop eating. If somebody 6:30 stands up in the middle of the Suda and he says, I'm makabel Shabbos, however you makabel Shabbos, he has a Chiyuv Kiddush, he's not allowed to eat anymore. Or the ladies that are Madlik Neiris, and with that it's a Kabbalah Shabbos, by their Hadlakas Neiris, they're not allowed to eat anymore. So the halach is, the din is Poiris Mapa Makadish. What is the definition Poiris Mapa? Poiris Mapa is a tablecloth. Poiris Mapa, where you Poiris Mapa, tablecloth, where? The pashtus in the poiskim is, you Poiris Mapa the same like every Shabbos, you put on a challah decal on the challah. That's the pashtus. However, there are poskim that say Poiris Mappa means a tablecloth over the whole entire table. We'll soon see the reason of the differences why. But the pashtus is Poiris Mappa. If you're going to be next week Friday afternoon and you're going to want to do Poiris Mappa, the pashtus Poiris Mappa means you put your challah decal over the challah. Why do you have to be Poiris Mappa? And then we'll see to understand the difference of Poiris Mappa. Why do you have to be Poiris Mappa? So on a regular Shabbos, these two reasons why we have a challah decal. If Poiris Mappa means a challah, why either bedoimit to the man, you have lechem mishna zeicha to the man. So the same is also the same is also the cover. The man had a cover on the top, on the bottom, else the man. And another reason, this reason is actually brought first, is not to be mevayish the challah. Really, you're supposed to be washing, eating the challah first. Hamoitzi comes first. However, you need to make kiddush. You need to make kiddush to be able to eat the challah. So you cover the challah. Maybe an afkamina, if let's say you're making kiddush on challah. So then that's the reason of the man. You should still put a challah decal, but that's the reason of shlei levayish you don't have. But that's in general Hilchos Shabbos. So every Shabbos you cover. So these two reasons that you cover, so then you cover the challah also. When you stop now in middle and you're stopping, so you're going to make kiddush. So you cover either zeicha laman because you need that even on a Purim erev Shabbos, and the same is also shlei levayish, as we'll soon see, because you're going to the wine and not using the challah. There's a third reason. One second, there's a third reason Tosfos brings for every Shabbos. A third reason Tosfos says, the reason why we cover the challah is to show that this Seudah that we're going to have now is a Pnei Kavod Shabbos. It's not just a regular supper, it's a Pnei Kavod Shabbos. So 3 reasons why you cover the challah every single Shabbos. Let's now go to see when we say Poiris Mappa. Poiris Mappa, before Makadosh, Poiris Mappa. What are you being Poiris Mappa? Outs the man, so it's the same, you have that. Outs the reason, Shloi Levayish. We'll see a little bit more about it, because could be you don't even make Amoitzi, so that maybe is not applicable, we'll get to that. But outs the reason to show that it's Seudas Shabbos, Zicher you have to cover to show you're middle of a big Purim Seudah, and you want to continue now into Shabbos to show that, wait a second, this Seudah is now a Shabbos Seudah, you have to cover over the challah. Tosfos says, why every Shabbos do you cover the challah to show that it's a Shabbos Seudah? Because in the olden days, they used to bring in the table after Kiddush. This is the Shabbos Seudah. Now it's big tables, we don't do it, so you cover it over. And the chiddush is that even just covering the challah is enough. If you're in the middle of a whole big Purim Seudah, these at tzad, maybe you have to cover the whole entire table. But Lamaisa, just to make it clear, very clear, Poiris Mappa, I just gave a little background because there is a sheet that Poiris Mappa needs to cover the whole table, to show that when you're going to open up the tablecloth, now we're having the Shabbos Seudah. So Poiris Mappa means you cover over the challah for all the different reasons, you cover over the challah. That's Poiris Mappa. Good so far? We're getting to Lechem Ish in a minute. Very good. Step by step. Another few more minutes. Just clear if somebody's going to be Poiris Mappa to know what to do. Number 1, Poiris Mappa, you cover the challah. We said reasons, but you cover the challah. Umekadesh, you make kiddush. Very clear. How does the kiddush look? A regular Shabbos kiddush, the kiddush is Yom HaShishi, Hagofen, and then the Birchas Hayoim. Hayois, this is all in Shulchan Aruch. If you're in the middle of a Seudah and you drank wine, so you already made a Hagofen, you don't make another Hagofen. Clear. So you Poiris Mappa, you're holding now Bazman that Shabbos came, it's 7 o'clock. You take your challah dekel, you cover over the challah, you fill up the becher, Yom HaShishi, but you don't make Hagofen. You don't make Hagofen because you drank wine. If you drank wine. If you drank wine, you don't make Hagofen. If you didn't drink wine, Avadi, you make Hagofen. Good. You were Poiris Mappa and you were Makadosh. You made Kiddush. But now we have to go to the Shabbos Suda. So Avada, you have to eat a Kazayas Challah. First of all, so it should be Kiddush b'Makom Suda. So make sure if you're being Poiris Mappa Makadosh and you had a whole Suda, after Kiddush, Poiris Mappa Makadosh doesn't just mean that you make Kiddush. Then afterwards, Avada, you have to eat Seudas Shabbos. Eating Seudas Shabbos means at least a Kazayas Challah. First of all, you have to have a Kazayas Challah, so it should be Kiddush b'Makom Suda. You also need a Kazayas Challah because that it should be, the Challah you ate earlier was for Purim. You have to eat a Kazayas Challah for the Seudas Shabbos. So you were Poiris Mappa and you made Kiddush and now you're going to have Challah. Do you make a Hamoitzi on the Challah?
No, you made it already.
Oh, you made already Hamoitzi. You made already Hamoitzi. So Pashtus, you shouldn't have to make Hamoitzi. Very good. You already made Hamoitzi. You're in the middle of your Purim Seudas. You made already Hamoitzi. L'maisa, it's a machloikis. The Shulchan Aruch brings two shitas. One side is not to make Hamoitzi, just like you don't make Hagofen, you don't make Hamoitzi. You already made. The other side is yes to make Hamoitzi. Why should you make Hamoitzi? Because when Kiddush comes, 7 o'clock, when Shabbos comes, you Makabel Shabbos, you can no longer eat. You're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to eat. If you're not allowed to eat, that's a Hesach Hadas, and you have to make a new Hamoitzi. Oh, very good, beautiful. L'chayr should be the same thing Hagofen. The teretz is, for the Hagofen, there is no Hesach Hadas, because the second that you're not allowed to eat anymore, you go straight to Kiddush. Challah you can't eat yet. You have to first make Kiddush and then go to Challah. But Kiddush, the wine, there's no stop. You have wine, you fill up the becher, you're continuing in the wine. Hagofen you don't make if you drank wine before. Hamoitzi is a machloikis in the Shulchan Aruch. It's not complicated. La halacha, the Chavetz Chaim says, Safik brachas lahakol. You don't make hamoitzi. So far so good. It's pretty simple. Poiris Mappa, you have to stop as man Shabbos, you cover over the Challah, you make Kiddush. It's halacha, it's a din of the Shulchan Aruch. The Gemara brings it. You don't make hamoitzi, it's a machleikes Safik brachas lahakol. Lechem Mishnah. You asked very good. You need Lechem Mishnah. You need Lechem Mishnah. The Aruch HaShulchan says you need Lechem Mishnah. Reb Shloimeh Kluger in Elef L'cha Shloimeh says it depends if you have to make hamoitzi. If you have to make hamoitzi, so you're making hamoitzi, you need Lechem Mishnah. But if you don't have to make hamoitzi, you still have to eat a kazayas, but you don't have to make hamoitzi, you don't need Lechem Mishnah. Where does the Lechem Mishnah play out if you don't need to make hamoitzi? You have to eat a kazayas. There's no din Lechem Mishnah in eating the kazayas. If you're making hamoitzi, you need Lechem Mishnah. L'maisa, we don't make hamoitzi because Safek brachas lahakol. So, but you still need Lechem Mishnah because be'etzim there's a sheet today. You need to make hamoitzi. Good shaila. Sure, if you want, you can have Lechem Mishnah. Even if you're not making hamoitzi, you can have Lechem Mishnah. So the Gabi Lechem Mishnah, the Aruch HaShulchan says you don't need Lechem Mishnah. It could be depends on hamoitzi. We're going to get to that also. Very good. Another brief few minutes and we're done. Bais Hashem. Before Ma'ariv, we're holding first the middle of the Suda. We're going to get to Ma'ariv. So you ate the Suda. Good. Whatever your regular Shabbos Suda is, as much as you could eat. You're holding now by the end of the Suda, benching. In Birchas Hamazon, what do you say? Do you say Al Anisim, Ritzei, both? The Be'iri in Ksuba says, you say Al Anisim. He doesn't say that you don't say Ritzei. It's hard to say that you don't say Ritzei, because if you forget Ritzei, you have to bench over. So it's not shayach to say l'chayr that you don't say Ritzei, but the Meiri says you say Al Anisim. The Pri Megadim says you say both. He spells it out clearly. If you're going to be Poiris Mapul Makadish, you say both Sai Al Anisim in benching and Sai Ritzei. However, a long list of Gedolei HaPoskim, Chaya Adam, the Mishnah Brewer, the Shevet, a lot of Poskim, Shevet HaLevi, among many others say, you do not say both. You don't say Al Anisim and Ritzei because it's tied to the Sasri. It's tied to the Sasri. Now, I'm not going to go into it now, but you could all ask me, is it the same thing as Shabbos going into Rosh Chodesh. This coming Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Abba Aleinu, is Ritzei and Ya'alav V'Yavid. There's a few shitas. It's for a separate discussion, but over here, it should be the same thing. It's a little bit different. Maybe it's one big Suda. It's a different. We're not going to go into it now. But Al Kapanim, clearly, by benching, the pashtus is when you bench, you do not say Al Anisim. Lamaisa, if you don't say it, you're saying because these shitas that say that you say it, so you can be yoitza then. If you don't say it because it's tarta the sasari, so then you don't say it. It's not a problem saying it. Maybe you should say it by the Rahman. Good aura. Now so good. So it was very clear. You ate the Seudas Purim. You're holding by the shkir. You Peiros Mapa. You Makadish. No Agofen. You didn't make Hamoitzi. You ate the Suda. You benched. Pashas, you only say Ritzei. You asked very good, so what's with Ma'ariv? What happened with Ma'ariv over here? Mincha obviously goes without saying, you daven Mincha before the Suda, because you're going straight into Leil Shabbos, you daven Mincha earlier. What's about Ma'ariv? So the Pashtus is, Pashtus in the Tzur of Peiros Mapa, in the middle of the Suda, you're allowed to continue the Suda, but you just Peiros Mapa Makadish. Nothing with Ma'ariv. That's the Pashtus. That's the Pashtus. However, in Zera Emes, when he explains how you do Peiros Mapa, he says, Holchin lebeis hakneses to daven v'chayzer Peiros Mapa. The Kaf HaChaim expands on it a bit more. The Kaf HaChaim says that B'chlal al pi Kabbalah, every Suda is supposed to come after Tefillah. Friday night, Ma'ariv. Shabbos in the morning, Shachris, Musaf, then the Suda. Mincha Shal Shudas is also negay. A lot of people are makbid to eat Shal Shudas dafka after Mincha Pi Kabbalah. The Suda is supposed to come after Tefillah. Even this year, Erev Pesach, Shechal Lios B'Shabbos, and we eat the Suda. There are a lot that are makbid to eat Peiros, to be Yotzei the Shal Shudas after the Mincha of Erev Pesach, Shechal Lios B'Shabbos. Okay, that's Engam HaKaimai. But Al-Kapanim, so Mamela says the Kaf HaChaim, you should have a Ma'ariv earlier. You should have a Ma'ariv earlier. Earlier, the says before Peiros Mapa, before you continue the Suda. The Goyin says Al Kapanim at least Kabbalah Shabbos. Not just to make Kiddush, before you make Kiddush, even if you're going to daven Ma'ariv later, but Kabbalah Shabbos, you should say Kabbalah Shabbos.
At home.
What?
Kabbalah Shabbos doesn't.
Yeah. We'll get to it in a minute, that if you take a big break, you lose a certain mile of Peiros Mapa. We'll get to that mamash in a half a minute. One thing is important to note, that if you Peiros Mapa, you always have to be careful when Purim goes into Shabbos to make sure to empty your pockets with muktzah. But if you have the Suda, whatever time you're going to have it, at 11 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, you finish the Suda, you clean up, you prepare for Shabbos. The person has to be very on top of it, and you're still eating the Purim Suda and you're drinking also. It doesn't say Peiros Mapa Makadosh that a person can chas v'shalom, be mazalzel, even be machal Shabbos. So a person has to really be very organized going from the Purim Suda into Shabbos. That's L'maymer HaMusker. And with this I conclude. So we have over here, B'siyata D'Shmaya, pretty clear. You want to be Peiros Mapa Makadosh, this is what you do. It's pretty clear. Ma'ariv maybe is a little bit interessant because you have to daven Ma'ariv earlier. Should you be Peiros Mapa Makadosh, yes or no? Motchi asked a Shiur on Peiros Mapa, so Atkan is what you do to be Peiros Mapa, but should one be Peiros Mapa Makadosh or not? I just want to bring out one more point, what I started in the beginning. There's no shaila that the Purim Suda is a chiv on Friday, and even if it's an hour before Shabbos. This has nothing to do with Peiros Mapa. You didn't get a chance to eat the Purim Suda till 6 o'clock Friday afternoon. You sit down, you eat the Suda. And be'etzem you can bench. Peiros Mapa is a din, you're in the middle of the Suda, you could continue the Suda into Shabbos. So Lamais is like this, in Peiros Mapa, the Meiri says that was the minig, and the Emes says there's many places that are noyig like that. Not only many places are noyig, to say that you're now going to be Peiros Mapa is a hard thing to say because the Gemara says Peiros Mapa Makadosh and it's Gepaskin the Shulchan Aruch. However, before you go and do it, you should just know the Maril says that Peiros Mapa is B'di'evet. It's B'di'evet. The Magen Avram says Bal Nefesh Yizoher Shelo Yovel L'dei Kach, which l'chayr means you should try to eat the Seudah early. Shelo Yovel L'dei Kach, because there's a lot of shitas. Lamaisa is like this. Be'etzem, this is the previous Shiur spoke about once the Chatchila time to make the Seudah. Be'etzem, if you make the Seudah earlier, you don't have to really go into Peiros Mapa. It's an exciting thing. It's not going to happen for 20 years. When else is a Peiros Mapa? I hear. But Be'etzem, you don't have to get involved. You can learn, you can know about it. You don't have to get involved in being Peiros Mapa. But one thing I do want to say is he's a tzad mile also of being Peiros Mapa. And with this I conclude. To Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Baal HaTanya says, what's the mile of Peiros Mapa? You see, if you're going to eat a Seudah, you're going to bench, and then you have to eat another Seudah. It's not l'te'av, and it's very hard. You just finished eating and eat another Seudah. It's hard. Peiros Mapa, the idea of Peiros Mapa is you're still eating, you stop and you make Kiddush, which means you don't go out for Ma'ariv. You make Kiddush and you continue eating, then you still have an appetite to continue eating. So I'm just saying that would be the tzad mal yusa if a person's eating. It turns out that a Seudas Shabbos was 6 o'clock in the Seudas Purim was 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and now it's just about Shabbos. The tzad ma'iliz will be able to eat l'te'avan. However, even if a person ends up eating the Seudah at 4, 5, 6 o'clock and he benches and he's not going to be Peiros Mapa, you don't have to eat the Seudah right away Friday night. The Mishmur says clearly in Siman Reishai and Aleph, if Avada, you're supposed to come at the Shabbos l'te'avan. But if you're not, you can't eat the Seudah yet. So comes Friday night, you go out, you go to shul, to daven, there might even be a long Kabbalah Shabbos, you come back, you're not ready, you'll eat the Seudah in 2-3 hours. Have a wonderful Shabbos.